Kitco Mining special coverage of BMO's 33rd Global Metals, Mining and Critical Minerals Conference is brought to you by First Majestic Silver.
Goose is getting ready to fly. This is Paul Harris for Kitco Mining at the BMO Metals Mining and Critical Minerals Conference in Hollywood, Florida. Joining me today is Clive Johnson, President and CEO of B2Gold. Clive, welcome back to Kitco.
Hi, Paul. Good to see you.
Likewise. Now, B2Gold last year, 2023, you achieved your guidance with production of 994,000 ounces of gold from your own operations. Congratulations there.
Thank you.
A lot of your peers are not performing well. B2Gold has consistently performed well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's going on, do you think?
Well, I would say I can only really speak for our experiences. We've had, that's the 8th year in a row that we've met our guidance, which is quite an accomplishment through COVID and everything we've been through in the last 8 years. That's 8 years in a row of beating our guidance for production and our cost guidance as well. So we're very proud of that track record. I think that overall inflation's obviously had an impact on our industry. Unfortunately, though, we've seen since the start of this new year, we've seen a number of companies come out with some disappointing numbers, I think, that have rattled shareholders a bit about the gold space. So there's a bit of a disconnect, it appears, between the gold price, which is pretty robust where it is today at over $2,000 an ounce, and the gold equities. So we haven't really got the buying attention we would have thought. Now, partly it's because some companies and some of the bigger ones, unfortunately, have had to come up with disappointing results and had to re-guide. So in our particular case, this is a cyclical industry, so we had a great year last year, and this year is more of a year where we are growing by building the Goose mine. We're also doing some projects in Mali that are one-off, building tailings facilities, which you need, expanding the solar plant. So we're spending a lot of money this year, frankly. This won't be as robust a cash flow year as we had last year. But we'll get through this year. Production should set records next year, 1.2 to 1.3 million ounces next year, and our costs should come back down to the levels that we're used to. So this year's a bit of an anomaly of a little less production because we didn't get the permit in time from the government of Mali. We didn't get a permit in time to start trucking ore to the Fekola mill. So that should have added 80 to 100,000 ounces this year, which would have kept us in near that million ounce level. So we're working on that. We'll make progress on that. But this year is the year to focus on what we're doing. We're extremely well financed, extremely strong financial position, which is where you want to be. Back to next year, we get back into some very impressive cash flows as we're used to and the kind of performance that we do.
A good year, a good solid year for B2 last year, but your all-in sustaining cost rose to $1,199 per ounce. That's, I think, the highest it's ever been, pretty much. Is the company in danger of losing its low AISC position? Because for many, many years, you've been a standout for being one of the lowest AISC producers amongst the big companies.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fair question. I think that this year is an anomaly. As I said, this is a year, and in the cycle of mining, you'll have years where you have a bit lower grade, or you have more stripping to do, or you have capital to spend. In the case of Goose, of course, the capital is to build a new mine. So we expect to get back down to lower all sustaining costs next year. This is an anomaly, and frankly, our all sustaining costs probably should have been similar to last year if we'd got the additional approval from the government of Mali to start hauling ore down. So we're very cost conscious. Obviously, inflation's had a factor for everyone, but at the end of the day, I still see, looking forward, I still see us as compared to the industry, as back in that low all sustaining cost position.
Okay. Now, B2 is, I would say, very well known for being a shrewd exponent of M&A. We've done some great deals over the years that built the company up to this million ounce a year level. It would seem to be a buyer's market now. You mentioned the divergence between the gold price and equity prices.
Right.
I imagine you see quite a lot of potentially interesting things out there. It surprises me there's been so little M&A action. What's your view on what's happening and what's potentially impeding deal flows?
Well, I think for us, first specifically for us, this is not a time where we're looking to add on in terms of new projects. At the end of the day, we have the expansion at Fekola we talked about, that hopefully by next year or sooner we'll be trucking ore at Fekola, which will increase production, as I said, by about 100,000 ounces. You have the Goose project coming online in the first quarter of 2025, which should produce 300,000 ounces a year, and we'll come up with detailed costs, but we're expecting to be around $1,000 or $1,100 an ounce, all in sustaining costs there. We'll have more on that to come out. And then we have, so that gives us the potential for record production next year, as I said, 1.2 to 1.3 million ounces. So we're not getting value for what we're doing today. We're not getting value for Goose. I think this is a tough market we're in right now. So a lot of people are, even with our success track record of building mines around the world, including in the north of Russia, we're doing one in northern Canada, even with our credibility, it's a tough market right now. People are a bit of a wait and see mode, but we're not going to jump into M&A because our stock price is so low, frankly. At the end of the day, we have growth in the portfolio. So not only do we have the expansion of Fekola, the Goose mine coming on, but we think the next one may very well be Gramalote in Colombia, where we recently bought on our partner AngloGold Ashanti. So now we can look at it for the first time as one company owning the asset, not two. We were always pushing for higher tonnage, bigger gold production of that project. It's probably better suited as a smaller project, maybe 150 or 200,000 ounces a year, but in the right place in Colombia. We had a permit before for Gramalote. We'll have to apply for a different permit, but it'll be a smaller footprint, a much smaller mill, higher grade. The cost should be lower. The big issue, there was a capital cost estimated at $900 million. So we decided not to go ahead. So did AGI. We bought them out. Now we own 100%. So is there a smaller mine there? So that study will be out by the middle of the year. So if you look at that potential, we've got to do the study. But if we're right, and it's going to make sense, between Goose and potentially Gramalote, you could be adding 450 to 500,000 ounces to this company. So we see a lot of potential. We love our exploration upside. This is not the time for us to go and take on another project to build. I've always said for 35 years, we'll never build two mills at the same time. We have a great construction team. The key for us, as always, is focus. Goose is the focus. Gramalote could be the next one. And let's get some credit in the market for the assets we already have.
One of the things I hear a lot is that there's not a lot of money available for the exploration stage. The juniors are struggling. B2, you have invested in some juniors. You've invested in Slowline Gold, Matador Mining, and in a joint venture in Finland. What's the company's strategy behind these kind of investments, and what potentially do you want them to lead to?
Sure. Well, definitely, obviously, it's very difficult for exploration companies to raise money, even with this robust gold price that we have, relatively speaking, historically speaking. So we see an opportunity there. We're very much interested in making major discoveries in our own right, which we've done historically at Beam and B2Gold. But reaching out to good junior companies that have good management and really good exploration prospects, we can help them. Obviously, by putting money in the treasury, we can also help them with, frankly, with credibility, because B2Gold is a well-known producer, builder, etc., but also a very good exploration company, because we were born of exploration, BIMA and B2Gold, back in the day. So we see it as a great opportunity to get involved in good projects. Now, down at the end of the day, is Snowline going to want to build a mine? We don't know, but they want to build value for their shareholders, which they're doing a great job of. And one day in the future, if they are looking to be friendly takeover, then that's what B2Gold has done, as you know, many, many times. So we're just a good, friendly shareholder. We like what they're doing, and we're very positive. It's definitely a world-class discovery they have in the Yukon, where I started my career some 40-odd years ago. So we're back in Canada with the Goose project. We'd like to do more in Canada, but we're also looking around the world at juniors. So either signing deals with juniors where we can earn a majority interest by spending money in the ground, or things like this, investing in them. So I see that as an important part of our growth portfolio, but we still are going to do our own exploration. This year's budget is $65 million US for exploration. 28 million for that is Goose. We're so excited about the exploration upside there, but there are other projects around the world as well. So the strategy, when I say we're not interested in M&A, I mean that more in the fact of sort of a corporate takeover of someone, unless the valuations made sense to us. At this with our stock where it is today, we're more likely to focus on exploration, development of our own projects, and the juniors.
What are your aims in Finland? Again, in Finland, you've got that sort of northern Arctic kind of environment to development, where you've got a lot of experience, similar perhaps to some of the things you're going through with Goose. What's your strategy there?
Well, it's an exploration project. We've had some sniffs. We haven't really hit it out of the park yet. We have ground that is next to Rupert Resources, who have a very good deposit there. And at the end of the day, we're back drilling soon there, and I think this will be an important year to see if we get the results we're looking for. There's multiple targets. We've had some success, but we haven't found a multi-million ounce deposit yet that would want us to continue to develop. But we've got a good exploration program coming up.
Okay. I'd like to broaden our M&A discussion, if I may, Clive. The recent years seen some mega deals in this space. By and large, the performance of the bigger companies has been disappointing. So does that beg the question, is the sector creating companies that are too big to succeed?
I think that's a really good question, the good point. I do, from myself, one of the biggest challenges in this industry is to maintain your production level and then grow it as well. So to maintain your production level, you've got to find more ounces of gold. So for me, there's somewhat of a limiting point there where I think there's a space for a company like a B2Gold between maybe 1 million ounces and 3 million ounces a year, and we will continue to grow. in that space, because you can be light on your feet. You can still be a small company. You can be light on your feet. And we can continue to do our international adventure, including North America now again. But I think there's a certain point in time where it's going to be tough. If you're really big, that's a hell of a challenge to replace 5-8 million ounces of gold a year. It's a challenge. It's doable, but it's really challenging. I think there's a space for investors to do very well with smaller producers. And we pay a 6% yield dividend. We pay the highest dividend of any gold company of any gold company at the end of the day, and we'll continue to pay that dividend. So I think there's bigger upside with companies that are personally they're smaller producers because of the growth we have in our portfolio, but also that space and where we can continue to be an entrepreneurial company, which is really the key to our success. Do what we do well, deliver on the promises we make, but always be entrepreneurial. That makes us a little different than some of the other producers out there.
Now, another trend we've seen in recent years, presumably as part of the attempt to appeal to generalist investors, the bigger companies have been giving 5 and 10-year production and cost guidance. We're in a cyclical business, so does that give investors the opportunity to, let's say, better time their investments? They can say, like, Clive, we like what you're doing now. We can see you can have production uptick in a couple of years' time. We love you, but we're not going to invest in you today. Our moment to invest is going to be in 2 years' time, which is great in 2 years' time, but it doesn't really help you today.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand some of the logic of that. At the end of the day, though, I think you have to look at things change a lot. So if you come in with 5-year guidance, fine. But look at what we've done. So 15 years ago, we had no gold production. Now we're just under 1 million ounces of gold a year from the projects we've successfully acquired and developed. So what are we going to do in the next 5 years? Well, we're going to build the Goose mine. Perhaps if we get the right results economically from the study in Gramalote, we may build that one. And then what else do we do? We're not a company that's going to stand still for very long. We never have. We're a growth company, as well as being a really good producer. So I think that's part of the problem with 5 or 10-year guidance is for many companies, maybe they're going to be static for 5 years, or maybe they're going to drop a bit one year and increase the next year. The part of our job is to find more ounces to replace, but in our case, to grow the company as well. So, I think that at the end of the day, investors make their own assessment. Right now, there's a lot of negativity, frankly, around here. And part of that's because a lot of companies have had to change their guidance. We had to change our guidance a bit by increasing the capital budget for the Goose project. But I think we're going to be on that budget. So there's a negative sentiment around the market today because the gold price is so strong and the gold equities haven't performed. But it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. If people sit on their hands too long here, at the end of the day, where's the value creation? So we just got to keep doing what we're doing, and we'll be fine at the end of the day.
I want to finish today talking a little bit more about your project specifically. You mentioned the cost increase that you had to announce at Goose. Why was that? Was that just the overall inflation that's hitting everybody, changing scope, optimization?
Yeah, when we did our due diligence last year, we actually came out with a higher estimate. Sabina, the company we took over, they did a very good job at permitting and exploration, and they started down the road of ordering equipment and construction. But we factored in inflation at that time. We did a lot of due diligence like we always do on our projects before, but this is not the typical B2Gold model. Typically, we would like to acquire a company that's done a feasibility study if we could do an accretive deal, and then we plan the mill, we build it, we order what we want, and we build it ourselves. So in this case, we inherited a situation with a contract miner contractor who was going to build the mine, which we don't do. We do it ourselves because we do it so well. So we had to make a lot of changes. And frankly, there were some costs that in the process of due diligence, we didn't get, we had to re-cost things such as labor and other things. And in the feasibility study, we're a little optimistic as it turns out. So that's the reason. I don't like it. We pride ourselves on delivering the promises we make. So it's disappointing for us to have to increase the capital. This is a great project. It's going to be a very good mine. Tremendous exploration upside. We have $28 million budget this year for Goose exploration. We like it a lot. I like the acquisition, and I believe the ice road started a couple of days ago to haul everything into site. I believe we're going to be on track for that start of gold production in the first quarter of 2025.
Is it tough taking over somebody else's field, Clive?
Well, there's benefits in the sense of Sabina did a great job. So that's the key element here. They did a very good job of permitting. They were a company that was a single asset company in what actually is a pretty difficult market. So I think for them, financing was going to be expensive for a junior single asset company, and also they had a very, very tight budget. So we get to bring our technical expertise, and they've got some very good people who have stayed with the project. We get to combine with them on the technical side and lots of the great job they've done on Inuit relations, etc. But at the end of the day, we combine the forces to do that. And I think that Sure, in the perfect world, we would have taken them over after they finished their feasibility study, not after they started the construction. But that is what it is. Great asset. I definitely stand by the acquisition. It's going to be a good asset for a long time for B2Gold shareholders.
Okay. In your conference call, your 2023 results conference call a week or so ago, when referring to Fekola in Mali, you said that trucking the gold oxide ore from the Anaconda deposit, that looks to be the optimal scenario as it avoids a costly new mill development. What are the potential impacts on that particular plan or approach, given the attacks earlier this month on a bus carrying some of your workers?
Yeah, tragically, we had some fatalities when one of our bus convoy was attacked. We don't, and then obviously we send our condolences to the families of those that passed, and we're doing everything we can to help those families and also the injured in their recovery. At the end of the day, we really are doing an investigation with the government today. We don't really understand right now the motivation for the attack and how it happened and why. So that's an investigation that's ongoing. I must say that this is 300 kilometers from Fekola on the road to Bamako. That's the national highway in the country. Now, there's a forested area there, heavily forested area, where there's been some banditry in the past because it's a heavily forested area that can be concealed. At the end of the day, we're talking to the government about what happened. Are there ways to improve the security on the road? But this is the main highway in the country, and there's dozens of buses going up and down that road every day. But our commitment is to our safety of our people, as it always is. We'll work with the government to be safer. But I must say, overall, generally, in the last 6 or 9 months, we've seen some improvement in security around the part of Mali that we're in. This is the key part for all the gold mines. There's 8 gold mines along the belt, and the government knows that, like us, they want to keep their citizens safe, and we want to keep our 3,000 Malian employees safe. So we'll continue to work on that. But the mine is continue to run, the Fekola mine. It doesn't change any of our plans. We're just going to take this very seriously and see what we can do to improve security. Our mine security is fantastic. We're one of the safest mining companies in the world. We need to continue to do that everywhere, including the highways and the roads that we work on.
Okay, Clive, finally today, you've got a lot of projects on the way. Where do you want B2Gold to be at the end of the year?
At the end of the year? Well, by the end of the year, we will be completing construction of the mill at Goose for that first quarter 2025 startup. We expect to have a permit from the government of Mali to start trucking ore. As we said, we're waiting for an exploitation permit. We're all ready to go. We built the road, so that could add another 100,000 ounces approximately a year. And we'll be more advanced on the Gramalote project. We will have done a study by the middle of the year to tell us if Gramalote is economic as a smaller mine and if it's big enough for B2Gold as an asset. So a lot of exploration results. We're spending a lot of money at Goose. We're very excited. Our exploration geologist, I haven't seen him this excited since Fekola or even Kupel back in the Russian days. There's great exploration upside there and elsewhere. So we'll move along significantly our plan to get back to 2025, the kind of production levels and costs that we're used to seeing from B2Gold.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with that, Clive. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Paul. Always a pleasure.
And this is Paul Harris of Kitco Mining, the BMO Metals Mining and Critical Minerals event in Hollywood, Florida. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe.
Kitco Mining special coverage of BMO's 33rd Global Metals, Mining and Critical Minerals Conference is brought to you by First Majestic Silver.